Why might you never be ready to invest? That's going to be the topic of today's video. Hi everyone, so go over to adamfire.com, especially if you're an expat or a high net wealth individual. Now today I'm going to talk about why you might never invest. Now it seems a bit counterintuitive because a lot of people watching this video will be investors or people who are interested in investing. But one of the very common questions I get asked is, look, I know that investing makes sense. I've seen all the graphs. I know long term there's ways of investing without, essentially losing all the money, and a lot of the media narrative is nonsense, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of people say, well, I just don't feel ready, right? Even doing something which is very safe, very vanilla, like buying an S&P 500 index fund for decades, I just don't feel ready to do it because it's not familiar compared to, say, investing in property or gold. In some cultures, gold is almost like putting your money in the bank. Now, what I say to people is this: when I look at my life, and I think most people would actually agree if you look at your own life, almost all the brilliant things come out of going outside of your comfort zone. So when I think about the first time I traveled overseas, I was so naive. I was only 18 and I was terrified really of going on a flight. And back in those days, technology wasn't so big. You couldn't just go on Wi-Fi and get the translator out. And one of the great things about the first time I traveled overseas was I actually went to China in places like Shenzhen during a time when hardly anyone spoke English. So one of the reasons that was such a great trip for me was it was so much out of my comfort zone. And a few months before that, I went to a trip to Spain with my college class. But that was very much in my comfort zone, right? The college lecturers looked after us, and obviously Spain's not the same thing as China, especially in those days when very few people spoke English in China. So it wasn't such a great trip. Now you might say that has nothing to do with investing, but it does, because almost everything that's useful is A, hard, and B, get you out of your comfort zone. That could be starting your own business, it could be investing, it could be traveling, it could be learning a new skill, it could be becoming vulnerable to another person, getting into a relationship with someone. It could be emigrating, changing your residency, changing your citizenship. I know some people who have saved a fortune and are much happier by just changing their residency to save more taxes. I know some people who got so fed up of paying loads of taxes back to the United States of America that they even changed their citizenship because they were just fed up with all the forms. All these things are not comfortable to do, but it doesn't mean that just because they're uncomfortable you shouldn't do it. But what I have learned is a certain percentage of people just never do something because they've kind of given up on doing something which is outside of their comfort zone. So there's a percentage of people who will never invest even if they see, the markets have always gone up historically. Same thing when there's a market crash. Even though everyone says in that situation they would be the person who wouldn't panic sell and they would invest because markets always come back. Because people are uncomfortable in those situations, many people will essentially either panic sell or not put in extra money. So I think one of the best investing tips, if that makes sense, is do things from time to time that completely take you out of your comfort zone, because few people are willing to do that. So it's one way you can gain an advantage both in business and investing without necessarily having to outwork people. How can I help you? In two ways. First of all, are you an expat, a high net wealth individual, or just somebody who lives in a part of the world where it's difficult to get access to quality investment solutions? In which case, go onto my website on adamfire.com and find out more. If you don't fit into any of those categories, then in which case there's a range of free material on my website, on this YouTube channel, and indeed on my Quora, where I get over 200 or have received over 231 million views in the last few years. And finally, if you want to actually read my thoughts in more detail, go onto Amazon and find my book on there.